Hello, everybody, and welcome to another roundtable discussion with the Glasgow Doctor Who Society. I have four of us this week, including myself, of course. I have with me Paula.
Hello.
I have Anthony.
Hello.
Who've been on these before, and newcomer Sean. Hello, mate.
Hi.
Now, as you may see from the format so far, we're going to have a chat about the episode. Episodes, actually, because we're going to touch on Once Upon a Time last week as well. So we're going to have a look at both. So just very quickly, a quick summary of what your enjoyment was of each episode. I will start with Sean, and you can give me a quick summary of what you thought of the story, and then we'll discuss it in more detail.
So Once Upon a Time, I thought it was quite a good episode, but I was quite confused at times with the whole 13 going back to as the Renegade Doctor, and you weren't sure if it was 13 or the Renegade Doctor, and then the different scenarios that each character is in, like Dan, Yaz, or Vinder. But I did like how it all came nice to a nice conclusion with Vinder trying to find his true love, and you finding out that the girl that was looking for the person was looking for Vinder. With Village of Angels, I thought that was a really fantastic episode. That was probably so far my favorite episode of Flux. I liked the whole horror element. I liked everything that it came with it. It felt very horror movie-esque with the angels, and just everything about it just made me scared. It was great.
It's always a bonus making you scared, especially with the angels. Anthony, your synopsis of both episodes, what do you think of them?
Once Upon a Time did lovely time distortive stuff that was quite fun to see. My two downsides was that Joe Master was robbed of having a lovely actual scene of her as the Doctor and whole scenario, and we had the worst line recorded on film that has ever been noted of the as yet unborn child. That line will haunt me as the worst scripting line I've possibly heard in Doctor Who. And the fact that it was used in the recap, the audacity to use that line again was something that got to me as well. So they're going out for showing out these meme lines. But I very much enjoyed the rest of that episode after the recap in Village of the Angels a lot more as well. Yes, it was very scary, very tense. It absolutely was what Maxine Alderton seems to be really good at, of doing a suspenseful little house horror scenario. And she must have been watching The Dreams that week as well.
Okay. Paula, your synopsis of both episodes.
Yeah, I enjoyed both. I mean, the whole kind of jumping around Once Upon a Time, it was kind of like the different fairy tale strands coming together, but also that sense that everything was kind of there was all these strands of time and all kind of somebody had kind of pulled them up and then shook them all about the place and kind of went, okay, that, which I can understand why it was confusing, because there were bits you're like, well, what was that again? But the bit at the end was the best bit. I have to say, the whole thing of Yaz picks up the phone and there's the angel on the phone, and then the angel is in the TARDIS, and that's just quite an iconic sort of image of the angels have the phone box. There's been all these t-shirts done about that sort of things in the past, but never in the inside. And the fact that the Weeping Angel got inside the TARDIS was just great. And with Anthony, I felt Joe Martin was slightly robbed, and I would have liked to have actually seen Carvanista. I've been on record the last time as saying Carvanista was my favourite. So Carvanista and Joe Martin. And who were the other people? It doesn't kind of bring that up. Whether that's deliberate, perhaps, to hide other people, I don't know. I do wonder if that's part of it. But yeah, Joe Martin I really enjoy her as the Doctor, and I would like to see her doing a lot more than she's already done. And that was kind of a bit for me, a bit sad that she didn't get quite as much as she could have got. This week's absolutely loved. It was that kind of whole tension, making Weeping Angels actually quite scary. And then the end reveal of what happened, and it's kind of okay, that's the Doctor as a weeping angel. What the hell? You know, it's, you know, you do wonder, it does kind of make you wonder, right, okay, what's the origin of them? What's actually behind all the whole thing of the weeping angels, and, you know, where they come from and all that sort of thing. The idea of it being in someone's mind as well, which makes sense with the whole, you know, if you see it in your mind's eye, it could be inside. I like the little throwback of, like, she starts rubbing in her eye, like Amy did, and there was dust coming from her eyes which Amy did when she was faced with the weeping angels at one point. So there was lots of those little bits again, were little throwbacks to different things that have happened over the years. So yeah, on the whole, I enjoyed both really much, but very much this week's particularly.
Yeah. Personally, for me, Once Upon a Time is one of these stories where you're kind of going, what's happening here? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? But it very quickly clicked for me. So I did enjoy it overall. I did click what they were trying to do. It's a bit quick after War of the Centaurans to do a kind of another filler thing, but I suppose that's part of the downside of having a restricted run of episodes, I suppose. Maybe they could have done it a little bit later like they did last season. But to have the Roof Doctor in, and well done for calling that last time, Paula, or the Fugitive Doctor, as she's now officially known according to the credits, that was fun to see and interesting to see. And I love the whole story with Belle. I think some people didn't like Belle in regards to being a part of there, but I actually thought it worked quite well having that in there because it's a nice link to Vinda, and it helped with Vinda's story. And we finally got to see Vinda's background a bit more as well, which I did enjoy. Overall, though, I prefer Village of Angels. Now, I have to be completely honest, I've only seen it once, because I've been so busy the past couple of days, I've only seen it once. But for that once, you want to see it again. It's not like the episode you have to watch again just to get the gist of it. I actually got most of it first run, which is strange for me in this series. I like some of the tropes, though, and I love, as you say, I like the way they call back to the tropes the Weeping Angels had done before, in regards to the angels staring at each other to stop them from making you disappear. They developed the factor of you being zapped back once. What happens if you get zapped again? They developed that. Also, the fact of the angels coming out as images in different places. Obviously, they developed it with the mobile phone, but now they've got the lie detector sheet had the angel image on it. The television had it. The picture came to life, and the satellite angel, that was cool. So in that respect, yes, the episode was very creepy and very, very horrible, but they've also developed the Weeping Angels the way I think Stephen Moffat kind of missed out on in his later incarnations, and I think that's where its strength is. It's developed a lot of stuff and made the plot interesting, and as I say, the cliffhanger, how are they going to get out of that one? That's interesting. So going into it here, Sean, is there any particular bits of Once Upon a Time you want to pick up on?
I think one that I'd kind of like to talk about is exploring Dan more. So I liked how we got to see more of his relationship with Diane and that little like thing that was flirting between them, and I just thought that was quite like a nice thing to see. And then it got a bit dark, but then with the whole Dan finding out that she got captured, I hope like further on we do get that scene of, I hope it's Dan saving Diane, because I feel like that would make that whole arc really like just more wholesome, and I just love Dan.
No, I was just thinking about a lot of people saying in War of the Centaurans that was maybe Jodie's kind of best performance, but I thought in Once Upon a Time she was able to be really diverse in her performance, at least. As much as I'll not be happy that it wasn't actually Jo Martin, she did do a noticeable different character for her Doctor to be kind of similar to the Fugitive Doctor when doing those scenes. She also had lovely moments throughout the episode, sprinkled to be different characters, and when she's pretending to be the police officer beside Yaz in the car, and little things like this, it was quite nice and quite well done. And her graduating addiction to finding out what her past is was quite good and quite well done for the Doctor. We've never seen this sort of side of her before, this sort of like, I don't say vain, but like inherent need to find out more about who she is at the cost of the consequences for other people. It's something that's quite an interesting angle to see the Doctor at, and specifically for Jodie to act, because there hasn't been that angle for her to go at in a lot of occasions in the past seasons, and now she's got this, and she's doing it really well.
Mm-hmm. I thought of kind of like the whole idea of when Clara was doing the whole kind of different strands through time and like the different Doctors kind of in the 50th, leading up to that, where there was the kind of the different Doctors flying about and all that sort of stuff. That what made me think of it when she was in the time stream and kind of moving about and the sort of thing of that, you know, and seeing the different possibilities. It kind of felt like to me like it was kind of bringing that home, that sense of the universes are all kind of splintering off and breaking apart, and some of the things that we saw might not necessarily, well, to my mind, that some of the things, the realities we saw weren't necessarily true, maybe. I don't know. But the idea that these are all just possible strands of time that could be happening, and she's having to kind of pull them back. The police car bit was particularly good, I think, because it's like, you know, she see the angels in the windows, and then the Doctor's there, you know, it's someone different, and then it's the Doctor. And that's it was cleverly done, and it didn't feel clunky. That was, you know, these things can sometimes feel a bit like, you know, it's pasted on with a trowel, whereas it actually felt quite subtly, it was woven in together rather than you must think of this, you must do this, da-da-da. It was little strands kind of backwards and forwards of different bits. But yeah, I very much enjoyed that. And Joe Martin Doctor, and just Jodie's kind of way of reacting to that. I feel like this season's just generally shown her to be the Doctor that she actually is, and that maybe we didn't get the chance to see her before now, and getting to stretch a bit more. And I think that's obviously because the writing is a lot better.
Yeah,
I think you know, that it was always there, and it was always potential. It's just up until now maybe things hadn't quite worked out as they should.
I don't know if it's something about how the season itself has been made, in that
Yeah,
being under that pressure usually does produce quite good historically results in Doctor Who production. So I think maybe that's contributed to being under pressure, made them come up with more creative and imaginative.
There's also that aspect of you couldn't have lots and lots of people in one scene, so you're having to do quite small scale 2-handers, 3-handers, regular cast mostly all together. And that, and maybe in some ways, is actually meant for a tighter writing process. I would say Maxine Alderton, it's properly good, properly Halloween-y. Yeah, the whole season feels like Halloween. It just feels like that kind of warm autumn feeling that you get, cozy fires and Doctor Who's back. You know, that's what it feels like. Yeah. We just need to have it on Saturdays again and it'll all be fixed. And, you know, it does feel like that. It feels like the proper warm, cozy blanket of Doctor Who's back.
I just agree with everything, but like, but also like, I think it is like, I think this series has been better than Jodie's previous two, and I think I felt maybe Chibnall was just like, it's my last season, I really need to like go out with a bang. And I think he's delivered so far. I think with the last 2 episodes, there may be 1 or 2 things I didn't like about it, but as a whole, I'm really enjoying this season. And like every episode, I'm just enjoying whatever is on. So,
just very quickly on here, I like the idea of the main cast standing in for other characters within the time streams, because I think that was production based as much as anything else, but it actually works as a nice narrative thing as well. And they do have flickers of the real people that are in that time stream coming back. So you got the policewoman who changes, the policewoman who gets substituted for the Doctor in the Yaz's time stream. You've got Yaz substituting for the General in Vinder's time stream. Dan's is the only one really where the actual characters are the characters. There's no really substitution. The Doctor comes in as a hologram in that one, really. So I love the production side of it. I'm so glad that we've actually got more of Vinder, because you think he was a bit of a spare part until that point, and now he's got a bit more, something about him than just being. Oh, we now know why he was in the outpost. We know why he was there, and he tried to do something right, and this great serpent didn't like it and booted him there. So he'll be back next week. So we'll find out what happened with that evil character. But
yeah, I do wonder with the Vinder stuff and the Bell stuff, maybe it would have been better for that to be earlier, but they just kind of couldn't quite cram it in to the earlier episode, because the first episode did feel like they were first few episodes did feel like they were trying to kind of get everything in, sort of thing. It kind of felt like maybe we would have made a better connection with Vinder earlier if we'd known the stuff about Belle and the fact that she was looking for him. I find it interesting, the replacement stuff, the fact that we saw that Dan was Carvanista's stand-in, but we didn't see other than that. And I wonder if that's something we're still going to find out a bit more about. There's there's two other people in that division party. Who were they?
Yeah.
And I feel that there's a reason why he didn't show us that. The Master, possibly.
Oh, I was thinking, is it Lee, who was the Roof Doctor's companion, as it were, in Fugitive?
Yes, possibly, yeah.
I was thinking it was maybe him, because there was that, and it would be Vinder, because Vinder's like, we're doing this one last mission, and then it'll be all done. We can, finish up. And so that felt like they had this previous established nice relationship where, they were up to something like that.
Yeah.
And maybe with the Yaz stand-in, I'm not sure, maybe Gat. I'm just going because that's the only other person we know from the division.
Makes sense.
But we never know what that would be. But yeah, I think maybe one of them's at least Lee.
Yeah, possibly, yeah. But I think there's a deliberate choice not to show the other two people. Substitute. I feel it's the sort of tricksy stuff that Chibnall does do. As we talked about previously, the Broadchurch, there was lots of red herrings where he'd spend lots of time explaining who somebody was and giving their background, and then they were absolutely nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, that's the feeling I'm getting with Joseph Williamson at the moment, to be fair. Hopefully he becomes a bit more part of it, because he turned up again in episode 3, in what was effectively a kind of pointless scene with Dan, flying away from these blue inset things, and then he hasn't turned up in episode 4 at all.
I like that.
In some
I
respects,
like
is a
that he's
godsend.
just like an irrelevance. It's quite. It's clearly, like I said before, it's like that thing of, I'm just going to write this weird character in. We're not going to explain who he is, and it'll probably matter at some point, but who knows? Maybe he won't.
Speaking of Carvanista, since we got your dog Carvanista Lupari last time, Paula, can we ask Sean and Anthony what they think their Lupari would be? We'll start with Sean.
I don't know. Mine should probably be a Labradoodle, because I've got a Labradoodle dog, so I was like, that makes sense.
I'd go with a sausage dog.
A dachshund, something like that.
Like, yeah,
See that?
I can imagine that sort of protection that I would get would be, trying its best but not getting too far.
Moving on to just get back to the conversation a little bit, we're going to do a classic Glasgow Doctor Who Society meander off topic. I'll try and bring it back as quick as possible. Anything else very quickly in regards to Once Upon a Time that you guys want to talk about before we move on to Village of Angels?
Going back to about who the other division members would be, this is a long shot, but if it could be anyone, and Zorbeloff is one of the division members. I mean, that would just be amazing. I just want Peter Kay back.
Well, none of them are wearing a nappy, so I don't think that is the character, but I understand where you're coming from with that.
I can dream.
You can dream. Anthony, you were going to say something as well?
I just want to bring up that as yet unborn child line again.
Bit of context in case people have missed it, because obviously it's hit you. It's hit you hard.
Yeah, I don't think I noticed it. So what was the line?
It's when she's about to, when Belle's about to view her hologram of Linda, and she's talking to herself, and she's like, "I can't wait for you to see your as yet unborn child," and it sounded so clunky, like when she said it, and I was like,
Yeah.
"As yet unborn, just one of them?" Like, I
had figured out she was pregnant because I presumed that's who she was that's the baby she's talking to in the little thing.
Yeah, but it felt so like hallmarky of
yeah.
Like, do you know, audience, this is a as yet unborn child. Like she has, it sounded so rhythmically, like, you know, in Donnie Darko when they say like the pinnacle of the English language and the most fluid sounding thing is cellar door. This is like the complete opposite of the most fluid thing in the English language. Like that's, I don't know why it struck out to me, but like I watched it and post it and rewatched that scene going, is that what she actually said? Like,
it's very Chibnall. It's very Chibnall. I think we can safely say he wrote that line.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was only his episode, so yeah.
Yeah, but even then, you know, even if somebody else was on that episode with him, you'd know that he'd written it.
Yeah. Yeah, he was the one who's like, that's a good line, and I'm going to make sure it's in the recap as well. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's other ways you could have said that, you know.
Yeah.
And our baby, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Anything would have been better than that. Or tiny squiddling, or I don't know, anything.
Yeah.
Time top. What? Yeah.
Time top.
That would give too much away if it's time top. Yeah. Are we now insinuating it's Doctor that's the baby?
Oh God! Don't encourage Chibnall. If he sees this, he's away to rewrite it. Jodie gets a phone call and says, "Oh yeah, no, we've got to. I've just watched a video, and I need to rewrite the whole episode. We need to do it all again."
That's a Terry special's been spoiled. I've just had an idea. Yeah. Let's move on to this week's episode, Village of the Angels, rather. Whoa, so much.
This was such a good episode. Like, it was probably either my favourite episode of 13's whole run, or just one of my favourite episodes ever, because I'm starting to get into horror, so I love like the whole elements that it added. Plus, I do like the Weeping Angels, and I'm happy like to see them actually being used really well. And the whole idea of there's an angel actually inside Claire, and going back to the Claire storyline, like, because Claire was brought in the first episode, and now we get to see where we're going with that. And there's different things that made me think maybe Claire is a different incarnation of the Doctor, but I maybe would probably go back on that. But when the angels sent a lot of people back in time in this episode, like, that added to the horror movie element for me, because in a horror movie usually you have a killer and you're going after people, and that gave me the vibe with the Weeping Angels. Like, they sent a lot of people back in time and they actually killed 2 people properly. So that was great, and Jodie was just amazing in this episode. Like, I love Jodie, and I just think this episode was one of my favorite performances of her, because like you could see in her eyes, from her eyes, you know that the Weeping Angels were like no joke. And then seeing more dynamic between Dan and Yaz, I really liked it, and I liked how like Dan was asking a lot of questions and Yaz basically told him to shut up, and he apologized after it. It just made me love Dan more. And yeah, I heart Dan. And also I just really liked the fact that we got a mid-credit scene. It's like everything nowadays has a mid-credit scene, and I'm okay with that. I just found it funny that now Doctor Who is starting to do mid-credit scenes.
I'm just going to quickly touch on the Claire situation and what your initial thoughts were in the first week about what Claire actually is. And we found out obviously that what she knew about the Doctor was premonitions that the rogue angel had given her. It wasn't anything to do with the fact she'd met the Doctor before. Have Has it exceeded your expectations? Who Claire actually is, or is it worse for you, Anthony? What's your reaction after watching it?
I'm whelmed, not over or under. I'm whelmed by that. She, I wasn't sure where it was going to go with her. I knew it would be some form of like time manipulation, and just the way it was executed in this episode made me absolutely accept it, and especially this idea and concept of her transforming into one as well. I just loved it. It was similar, almost. I don't know if you've seen Last Night at Soho. It had a similar feel to that in some way, of how she's feeling this other life with her. In this case, an angel, and especially that scene of her in the toilet, going to the bath, going to the sink, and then going up and seeing the wings, and the music, the way it's presented, that atmosphere of this episode was encapsulated by that scene of this sort of unsure sort of feeling amongst everything, not just with her, but with the whole village. And so she kind of personified it in a little ways, and I really love what happened with Claire. I get what you mean with Sean, what you were saying about her being, some form of maybe Doctor style kind of actor. I mean, I would love her to be, because I think, what's her name? I think it's Annabelle
Showley. Yeah.
Showley. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She was really good, and really fitted into the 60s style as well. And a lot of this felt really well fitted into the 60s style, like least of all the Weeping Angels being on that 60s television set fitted so well as well. So yes, she personified a lot of what was brilliant in this episode.
Yeah. Just one point, you talk about the mirror scene there, right? I was watching a live stream earlier tonight, and Jamie Magnus Stoner was interviewed, and he said it's one of his favourite scenes he shot for this series because it's such a brilliant way of doing it, because it's such a technically difficult thing to do, the mirror shot, and it works so well, and it was basically doubles. It was a double, so Claire's back. Yeah, Claire's back is the double, and then you've got Claire in the mirror reflection. I thought it was really cleverly done.
Yeah, I think the good thing about this episode kind of really brought together the whole idea that everything's in flux. It's like flux is this thing, and it's kind of like that happened, and this is after the flux. But it almost feels like the time's totally in flux. You're 1 minute you're in one bit of time, and then you're in a different bit of time, and like the village is there, and then it's not, and you're on the edge of universe. And I don't know whether anybody else noticed this, but it was almost like, see when the theme came in and then we had the mid-credit scene, the theme sounded different.
We did. The bass line was missing.
No bass.
Yeah, it was old. It was old Who. It sounded like classic Who.
Yeah.
Sort of themes from like that time. And that way it was like, it's such a little detail. But that's what I've really liked about this series, is it does feel like somebody's went, everything is all kind of mashed up and chopped up and kind of put together again. There's lots of little bits that reflect throughout the whole history of things, and I think that's quite a clever way of kind of setting up how much everything's all over the place. It's almost like the bits, it's like the whole logo thing, this thing that the logo is kind of breaking apart. It's almost like the bits of the universe are kind of breaking up and kind of separating into different universes, and then at the end, are we going to see just everything sort of smashing back together again, or what? And that, to me, is quite a clever way to sort of fit things. I liked the setting of the Village of Angels, the idea that, you go between, when it is, and going back, further back, and then going to some modern day, and the fact that this village was kind of was a thing, and she got newspaper cutting and all that sort of stuff. It just really brought home the kind of creepiness and the fact that Kevin McAnally, who was in it, was in previous Doctor Who. These things all kind of lend it that sort of feeling of just paying homage to what's happened before, but also bringing it up to date at the same time as being set in a historical past. And, the cleverness of the two scenes together where, oh, look, it's dark over there. It's nighttime suddenly. They're not just kind of not acknowledging the fact that something's weird is going on, but they're just kind of going, right, okay, fine. And, the guy, the uncle's just kind of like, oh, don't be ridiculous. This is just not listening to the wee girl, and the whole line about the little girl goes, he was never nice to me anyway, I thought was really quite, there's this expectation that kids at that time had to be kind of, obedient to adults, and she was just like, well, it doesn't, I don't actually, you expect him to care about the fact that he's just disappeared, and she's like, well, yeah, he wasn't that nice to me anyway. Quite a kind of throwaway line, and she just accepted that she'd been kind of scattered into the past. But yeah, the Weeping Angels on the television, and then the lie detector and the printer, and even the effect of the picture coming back together again. And, the angel going on fire and then getting put out. It was just so cleverly done, more than anything else. It really brought it all together. You felt like it was thought through really well about how it was put together and how the scenes were put together. And that, for me, made it really good.
Even kind of, when you're talking there about how it was paying homage in a lot of ways, story-wise, it felt like that as well. And it's like I mentioned with the demons, like it felt it had those elements about
that setting,
about Devil's
the same
End,
sort of village,
and this, the idea of it being parametered away. Even Peggy as old Peggy, like that, she was like a Mrs. Miss Hawthorne style sort of figure who was warring the town.
Yes.
There's ne'er do well around here, but it fitted relevantly towards a Weeping Angel story in that way. And that's what I loved about it. It fitted those narrative points quite well to that, and even the idea of the ship that crashed, just like in the Demons. But it is, again, the angels fit that even better because of it being a stone monument, and no one would pay any of our attention to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it fitted really well thematically, especially for the Weeping Angels in this one.
Yeah, I think the scene at the end where the Doctor turns and is like this, that proper, just kind of like, you could see it happening, the wings come out and everything kind of went, and you're just like, holy, sorry, cloister bell, but honestly,
First one today.
That's what I felt at the time. I just went, what is going on? You can't end the episode there.
It was, to be honest, I thought it was going to go a different way. As soon as they said, you're being recalled, and it cut to her, you saw her looking down at her hands, and I was like,
Ruth Doctor.
Is she going to turn into the fugitive Doctor for this? Because that's how she'll be recalled to that form. And I thought, they're just going to regenerate her into Jo Martin. And I was such on the cusp of joy at that moment, but equally at shock when the actual scene progressed.
The ending cliffhanger was very shocking to me, because when that started to happen, I was like, this isn't going to happen. Then it did happen. I was like, oh no. And it makes me more excited for next week, because now I'm wondering, how is the Doctor going to get out of that? Like, the Doctor's an angel. How? But I just want to know what happens now.
Going back to one thing I have to say about the previous episode as well is the Barbara Flynn. I forgot about Barbara Flynn.
Yes.
Barbara Flynn was in that. That's amazing, because that means we've got the full set of the Very Peculiar Practice Doctors have now been in Doctor Who, because David Troughton and Peter Davison and Barbara Flynn, and obviously Graham Crowden, who was supposed to have been the Fourth Doctor but ended up not being, and then was in Doctor Who. That was very exciting for me, because I loved A Very Peculiar Practice. If you haven't seen it and you're a Doctor Who fan, you should watch it. It's available on DVD. It's well worth the purchase. Don't bother with the follow-up. A Very Polish Practice is not very good. But A Very Peculiar Practice is just... It's a great way to see Peter Davison be completely different and utterly brilliant, and why Graham Crowden would have made an excellent Doctor if he had been, as would Barbara Flynn have been, to be fair. Because seeing her as Dr. Rosemary in Very Peculiar Practice, that sort of character being the Doctor would have been quite amazing.
Do you have any idea who Barbara Flynn was in that episode, or?
Not a clue. It was very much that thing of, she was kind of like, it's not really important to look into this further, don't look into this further. I don't know. I'm genuinely going through this season just going, I don't really know what's going to happen, and I'm along for the ride. And I'm quite happy to be along for the ride.
I think a lot of us are.
If you mess this up, Chris Chibnall, we will come and hunt you down. Because, yeah. Absolutely. I don't know. I'm just enjoying seeing what happens next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just very quickly, I just want to check something here. Barbara Flynn plays Osok in episode 3.
Talking of names, I love the line about was it Eustasis Jericho?
Yes, I was going to go on to Jericho a bit here.
So that's some award on the Scrabble board.
Yeah, that's a very Doctor thing to say. You know, the whole just glorifying a name like that is just like such a Doctor thing to say. You know, you can picture. That's the thing I've noticed that with this season is I could picture the 10th Doctor in that show, and that's in that thing. I could picture the 4th Doctor in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
I could picture other Doctors actually playing the part, and it would be subtly different, but it would fit.
But I think that's what Maxie Alderton's bringing is that voice to the first Doctor. Definitely. So I genuinely hope she keeps contributing into different formats. Like, I know she's done 2 episodes so far, being in a haunted house scenario, but that could be, it doesn't need to be a basement on the stage. It can be like a spaceship on the stage, and that way, like, there's loads of different scenarios where her style of story would work really well. So I hope she does get to continue the new showrunnership.
I really liked the Dr. Jericho. I thought he was quite a good character. I thought he was quite funny as well, but like, I just like all of it. And now I really want to research that a procure practice, because that actually sounds quite good.
It's very good. Yeah. It was, I think it was immediately after. It was one of the first things he did after Doctor Who as well. I think if you've ever been to university, it's quite you'll recognise some of the ways that things behave and people behave. There's some good actors in it. A Very Peculiar Practice is a very good show, and I had very fond memories of it watching it as a teenager, and I really enjoyed rewatching it when I did not that long ago. And obviously David Troughton's a very good part of it, and it's quite a horrible person, but it's quite indicative of what happens. It's quite Tory policy in its outlook.
Very much of
and
its
indicative
time,
of its times.
Yeah.
Tories.
Yeah.
The Tories in their previous incarnation under Thatcher. This is very much a Thatcherite, sort of what the Thatcher era did to universities and the health service, and how. But very actually, for all it was made quite a long time ago, you can totally see it being made now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
it would. Jericho, I like Kevin McNally returning.
Yes.
I can't remember his first name, so to me he's Dr. Hugo Jericho. If you get that, then you're well done, guys. But I know it's not the best story of classic series to have him starring in, but there we go. There's not much we can do about that. But yes, I think he played that brilliantly. I think he gave each scene the extra tension on top of Jodie's Doctor, and when he turned up in 1901 with Yaz and Dan as well, I think he gave an extra dimension to the scene. He seems to have lit up the screen.
Is he in the next episode?
Yes, he is.
Yes, I believe so.
I think I saw him in the next time trailer. I was like, this is surprising that we're getting a sort of closed story, as it were, character continuing, but I'm definitely here for that for him.
Well, I suppose they kind of have to, he's stuck in the past now, so
true. Yeah. I thought they were
What's he
just
gonna
like left
do?
him in the village.
No, well, there's a continuation of the story. If they'd moved on to somewhere else, I can understand them not being there anymore. But he's with Dan and Yaz, and they're stuck. What they're saying is for 3 years so far in the early 19th century. By the time the next episode comes
I
out,
like the way he just kind of went, all right, I'm stuck in the past now. Okay, fair
Yeah.
enough. That's kind of like a total, because that kind of is the kind of way his characters, you know, because he's like, yeah, I'm not scared of this. I was at I went into Belson. Nothing scares me anymore.
Yeah,
That's quite a, it was that kind of British stiff upper lip, sort of almost like, I'm not letting this crap scare me because I've seen scary things and I can't be scared by anything anymore.
yeah.
I thought that was quite a nice way of doing it. Can I say one thing on behalf of all knitters? The knitwear on the little girl, Maggie. Was it Maggie?
Peggy.
What's the little girl's name? Peggy.
Peggy.
Same idea.
Nickname from the same
She had
name,
a
but
very
yeah.
nice hat, a very nice knitted hat. I liked it very much. And scarf. And that was very accurate to
The
of her
time.
1940s time.
Well, it's 1960s, but yeah.
The same idea, really. 1960s. Well, maybe that's the thing, though. Maybe that's... I suppose she is kind of living with much older people. It did look quite sort of 1940s into...
Well, his jacket was from like 1949 or whenever the
Yes!
Doctor sent it.
I wonder if that's relevant.
I think it was just, a wee Doctor-y thing to try and find out the year, and it's quite a nice wee joke. I quite like that. Instead of, sonicking everything to find out what
Yeah, well,
what
it's that kind of...
soldier is in the Crimean War, or... She did it again in this one, well, after that scene, and that was a bit of a myth, but...
Yeah, it's that idea of, like, licking the...
Yeah.
Feels like whatever. You've seen that, like, I'm sure the Seventh Doctor does that, does he not?
Yes, he does.
I think they do over, yeah.
Yeah.
Quite like that, but whenever she's bringing the Sonic out to find out, where are we, and looking at, like, readings with just by pressing the button, she did it a lot in the house, over and over again for some reason, and
no screen.
Overusing it this season, that's my only gripe.
Yeah. I think sometimes it's almost like it's almost like using it like a tricorder, and it's like,
The scene I thought of was quite good was Azure and the companion, and trying to get all the people on the planet into the.
Oh yeah, the passenger.
Passenger, yeah.
Passenger.
As the passenger.
I like the way that Belle kind of did that whole thing about like run away. That's quite, it's quite like a Doctor Who companion-y-esque way of doing, that whole thing of saving people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel a bit of a hot take with this one, but those scenes, I think would have been good for, when we were, I think it was season 7 or so, where they had those like mini-sode, TARDIS-sode things, and it was like a small segment that maybe build up a story in that way. These felt like small scenes that built up the story around the main story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was a nice thing to build up upon, the effects of what they are doing around the universe, I guess. But it didn't really evolve anything. Like, she's still searching for Vinder, and even that mid-credit sequence, he's still searching for Belle. And it didn't...
I suppose.
Like, it didn't feel necessary to this episode, really, and I felt like they could have been just separate things that, could have been released in that way, or going, oh, here's, during this episode, in that way. I know it wouldn't have... I don't know if it's just because I don't feel as invested in this sort of side story, but those scenes didn't really evolve their story even, really, in what I thought it would.
Yeah, I think there's that whole kind of sense that their story's kind of slightly overlaid over everything else as to whether, I think the idea of why it's in the main story is to try and get you to care about Vinder and Belle. And I have to say, I like them as characters. I don't know whether they slightly get lost because there's so much going on. A little bit. And, in the past, you're right, there would have been like a mini-sode type, build on this thing, you'd get the background of Vinder. we've moved away from that so much that it's not there. I do wonder if maybe the series had been longer, their story could have been introduced better. It's part of the problem of having to, we're cramming it into quite a small space. That in some ways it might have been better stretched out a little bit more. But I guess that's the problem, is that they make the episodes slightly longer.
I don't know if it's just because totally I was so into the atmosphere and style of this story that when it changed to that, I was like, oh, right, in the same time when Flux was doing that in the first episode 1, where it just was doing that like 10 a penny, like you were used to that. But because it only did it once, you were like, all right, we're going into this again. Where, like I say, I felt like that could have been something that would have worked really well as a minisode that expanded on. Well, you saw Belle recently, you saw what Azur's doing, and you can see this kind of separated, but still quite dramatic scene happen as part of this story, and it would have been maybe just as if more maybe effective within this atmospheric story.
I would agree. There is a bit of an. I do kind of. I've seen quite a lot of people commenting that actually the whole thing might make more sense as a binge watch.
Yeah, I'm imagining it will. I didn't need to make sense right now, and it's not really from that point of view where I don't understand it. It's just thematically, maybe like plot wise, there wasn't much plotting that evolved for them. That it wasn't. It felt like a superfluous scene that could have been something else rather than part of this episode.
Yeah, I think it may have seemed more linked if Vinder had still been with them in the 60s scenes. That there maybe would have been the link better there, but now Vinder's he's gone off as well, and it's like it's almost like there's two stories going on. There's the Doctor Who stuff over here, and then the Vinder and Belle trying to find each other thing. It
feels like that. It feels like we're going into small standalone stories that this Flux is, omnipresent in the same way that the Cots scenes were omnipresent in the story of Trevor Time Lord. And I can imagine as well that there'll be fan edits of this season, similar to where there was like for Terror of the Viroids on its Blu-ray, of a trialless scene version. There'll be something maybe like that of like a Vinder Bell less episodes version of this. I can imagine to be for some fan edits or something like that.
And I agree with like everything said. Like I feel like it is kind of being separated with like Doctor's adventure here and then going back to the Vinder and Bell stuff. Like I think I feel like there might be something more to find out about Vinder. I feel like there's a certain twist coming and I can't exactly figure out what, but I feel like there's something big is going to happen about him in the next 2 episodes that will make us go, oh no, or just make us blow our minds. But I do like him, but it does feel like separate from each other, but it might make sense once like you do binge watch it. But also I love how they've brought another in-betweeners actor in that bit, and I just feel like, are they going to bring the other two in other episodes? Because I feel like they're trying to just scram in-betweeners actors in certain episodes now.
Maybe Vinder is actually part of the division. He's offered this assignment. Is you're meant to think it's the serpent, and he gets chased from the serpent. What if he was also part of the division? Also, 2 years till anniversary. We're recording this as the birthday of Doctor Who.
On Doctor Who Day,
for anyone. Yeah, it's not right now in the future, people. But right now, as we record this, it's Doctor Who's birthday.
Yeah, 730 days to go. We're counting.
Well, you are.
60 years is coming soon, and I'm just putting down Ruth Doctor for the 60th.
Well, all I'm gonna say about Jill Martin is, right, she is currently in Holby City. Holby City finishes at the beginning of next year. You never know. You never know.
Well, Holby City links with Doctor Who. There's quite a few.
Doctor
Paul
Who
McGann
luminaries,
was
yeah.
really quite in it quite a bit. But yeah, Paul McGann was like a crazy murdering surgeon in Holby City.
He was.
That's perfect timing, really.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, Russell T Davies, if you're listening, Division, spin-off, Ruth Doctor.
Let's go for it.
Just
You know, if I can't have her as the main Doctor, and I can't have Daisy Haley Atwell as the Doctor, clearly now, so a Joe Martin, Ruth Doctor in the Division spin-off with Carvanista, please.
Mhm.
And if you're listening, character options, Carvanista figure, please.
Proper
Like,
furry
just a
Carvanista
Joe
figure.
Martin figure. Like,
Well,
we're
Joe
still
Martin
waiting
figure
on
would be
that.
good. I've got a Joe Martin Eagle Moss little figurine,
Mm.
and a Joe Martin keyring that I bought on eBay, which is totally not official merchandise, but it's Joe Doctor or his Doctor. So yeah, I want a character options. I've not got any room to put them.
Any closing comments on the episodes that we have talked about?
I can't
today?
wait to see what happens next.
Mm-hmm.
That's my only thought at this point, and that's a good sign, I think.
Yeah.
If you kind of end an episode or a couple of episodes and you think, I genuinely don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how this works out, I think is a really good kind of point to end a show on. End an episode of something if you just want to know what happens next.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sean?
I'm just very excited as well for what happens next, and I'm also we saw this in the trailer, but I don't want to spoil it. I'm also very excited about a certain person coming back.
Yes.
Yeah, our promo photos confirming Unit is involved, so it's not just Kate. So yes.
Yeah, that's good. But then Unit didn't exist.
It was suspended, wasn't it? It wasn't disbanded. It was suspended. Yeah. We
get back into Unit dating again, I suppose.
What they going to call this one? What they going to call this one? Great Yarmouth? Sorry, bad joke. We're talking about Chroma. Sorry. Anything else, Sean?
I'm just so excited, and also if Paula wants a Carvanista figure, I want a Dan figure because I love Dan.
What you want is an evil Dan.
I think there should be figures of everybody who's in Doctor Who. I think it's a thing. If you get to be in Doctor Who, you should get a figure made of you. It's kind of like a thing. And to be fair, that's what used to be like.
Yep.
You have the granny from in the episode with The Wire. That exists as a figure.
Mm-hmm.
So why not all these things?
I mean, you've got a destroyed Cassandra.
Yeah,
destroyed Cassandra. Yes, destroyed Cassandra.
That's like the invisible. That's like the invisible Bilbo from the Hobbit action figure range.
Yeah, to be fair, I have got a Ryan. In fact, I've got two Ryans with different coloured trousers. Yeah,
and it's not like they can go back and they can't make any good figures of any actual relevant characters. Like, they've made Sensorites this year.
Yes.
If you can make Sensorites this year, or you can make a Dan figure, go ahead, make a Dan figure. Options.
But not evil Dan.
To be fair, if you've got a Graham figure, all they need is a slightly different hair colour. He's not that much different.
No, and I'm sure you'll be able to source a
change the
miniature
hair
frying
colour.
pan somewhere as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'd be prepared to make you my own frying pan. I'm just looking at the obscure figures. I've got a creator. I've got one of the curator figures. In fact, I've got two curator figures. I've got one of the little Eagle Moss ones.
Uh-huh.
We totally at some point need to do a whole thing. Glasgow Doctor Who Society share their toys. I've also got a Lego Sarah Jane with the stripy dungarees on.
Yeah,
I like my Lego figures.
Mine's
We're talking about someone who had a Lego Portal Doctor Who mashup cake for their wedding, so
Yeah.
Mine's a kind of line around the place because I'm still trying to think of random customs to make. And I've used a Bradley Walsh figure actually recently. I'm in the midst of making Bradley Walsh in the Sarah Jane Adventures, where he played that
Oh, yes.
that guy,
Yes.
the
Cloud,
guy.
yeah.
The Ringmaster, yes.
Yeah. So
Looks
that's
really
halfway
good.
through that with a Pertwee figure body, but that's probably most
Of
obscure.
course, yes. Yeah.
Your final thoughts, Anthony, before we
yeah.
go too off topic.
We're talking about Doctor Who episodes, I
Yeah.
thought. So this episode was my favourite in what's so far my favourite Jodie Whittaker season. So by default, it's probably my favourite of the era. So I'm just completely looking forward to the rest of this season and what evolves actually after that, because I don't think this story can contain itself in just these 6 episodes. I'm thinking there will be ramifications in these new specials, and I can't wait to see what that will happen, how that will affect her, how that will affect her relationship with the companions, because she's felt rather distant, rather kind of almost deliberately in this episode to her companions. So I can't wait to see how that evolves, not just at the end of this season, but further on into the specials and to the end.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Cool. Right. Ratings. We'll do ratings again since we said that last time round. Out of 10, Sean, what do you rate this? The 2 episodes. So Once Upon a Time and then Village of Angels.
I'll give Once Upon a Time a 7 out of 10, and then I'll give Angels 10 out of 10. I
Knew that was
loved
coming.
it that much.
Knew that was covered. Go on, Anthony. What's your ratings for each?
Once Before Time, what was
Once
it called
Upon
again? Once
Time.
Upon Time. 7 out of 10. It felt, like I said already about that episode, but for The Village of the Angels, 9 out of 10.
Ooh.
There's just that little things about, too much Sonic, and I felt like the Bell and Vinder stuff could maybe, be a bit out there.
Fair enough. Paula?
I'm with everyone else on the 7 for the Once Upon a Time. I think it was kind of good, solid Doctor Who, just not quite there. And I'm kind of on the 9.5. God, it's like it's almost there. It's almost perfect, but not quite. It didn't make me cry, but I didn't want to do anything. I always judge a Doctor Who episode. Am I going to try and do anything else while it's on? And I didn't. And that to me is always like a sign the episode has completely gripped me. So 9.5, being pedantic.
Ooh, and it's left to me. I agree with you. Once Upon a Time, 7 out of 10. I do agree with that. And as I set the precedent last time, I'm not going to give it 10 out of 10. It is 9.5 out of 10 for me as well. Because I do not rate things 10 out of 10, because as Anthony says, there's always room for improvement in every story. Even the classics, there's a room for improvement. I thought this one was the same. Couple of elements, bit of clunky dialogue, as you say. The plotting with the the Bell section was maybe a bit off. It maybe isn't really needed at this stage. And yeah, I didn't think the mid credit sequence was relevant. To be fair, I would have been happy with just the theme tune, the baseless theme tune, just running all the way through, and the credits, and not have that in between bit. Yeah. So thank you everybody for joining in today. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Paula. If you like this video, don't forget to like it, share it, promote it. We'll intend to make another episode next week for the next episode, which is...
Survivors of the Flux.
Is it? Yes, it is.
Yes.
I'm glad you guys remember, because I didn't, but there we are. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you like the channel as a whole, of course. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys, for watching, and we'll see you all later.
Bye.
Bye.